Have you ever wondered what it feels like to get all your valuable things taken away from you? Well, today, I'll be sharing an overview of Portuguese colonialism. The Portuguese Empire was established from the 15th century and eventually stretched from the Americas to Japan. They began their empire as a search for access to the gold of West America. The Portuguese Empire ended when Portugal handed Macau over to China in 1999 under the terms of a negotiated agreement similar to the one under which the United Kingdom handed over Hong Kong. The seven former colonies of Portugal that are now independent nations, together with Portugal, are members of the Community of Portuguese Language Countries. Let's first talk about the empire's motives. Lots of factors motivated the empire to achieve success. Each little group in the Portuguese Empire, such as the Portuguese elite, the merchants and the other members of the middle class, and the unemployed had their own specific motives. But something they all had in common was that they thought they had more right than other Europeans to travel and trade in their hemisphere. Since they thought they had more right, they made religious expansion one of their main goals, as they wanted to convert non Christians and other Africans towards Christianity. Because of this, the Pope authorized his empire to invade the lands of non Christians and especially establish great dominance over African colonies. On top of that, the Pope even allowed them to enslave all the non Christians they encountered, as they could become a source of economic growth. Although these religious motives were a huge one, it wasn't all they wanted. In addition to all this, the Portuguese also wanted to get as much goods as possible. The goods that they would receive from colonizing would eventually turn to profit, making them a more modernized colony. Overall, Portugal had some really meaningful motives established in the beginning of their journey that helped them with their success. From these motives, the empire colonized lots of other colonies, and from these colonizations, they gained lots of positive and also negative consequences. One main benefit the empire received was that they were able to make many new technological advancements that helped them towards their exploration. Tools such as the caravel, magnetic compass, and portal and charts were new inventions that contributed to Portugal's exploration. The empire also managed to establish a network of trading posts that were set up along the African coast. These trading posts were beneficial because they facilitated trade in gold, ivory, and slaves. The economic and cultural states were also impacted as they were all able to conquer many key ports, which led to an establishment of monopoly. Although there were many benefits, they sadly also received some negative consequences. Diseases such as smallpox, measles, and epidemic fevers were spread during their colonization, which contributed to a massive decline in population throughout areas. At this time, scientists did not have a cure towards these diseases, meaning that everyone was vulnerable. Moreover, slavery was also forced because their sugar plantations heavily relied on them. Interestingly, the colonized countries also received many positive and negative consequences. One major colony Portugal decided to colonize was Angola, which is located in South Africa. When many war veterans were interviewed during this time period, most of them only focused on negative aspects. They all expanded on their lack of support, dismissed responsibility, unfairness, and hypocrisy that was happening all around them. Supporting these statements, many men strongly agreed that these moments were the worst moments of their lives, as they described it as a waste of time and a hurtful experience for everyone. The hurtful experiences caused lots of domestic violence, which affected many people's psychological health. Thankfully, these colonized countries also received some benefits. After Portugal finished colonizing Brazil, they became one of the more important colonies, as the colonization transformed their politics, culture, and society in a good way. The principles of the ports of Brazil also became much more cosmopolitan. Meanwhile, education also developed, as the first printing press was brought to Brazil, which helped establish the first universities in Brazil. The religious motives Portugal had at the start of their journey also flourished, as Catholicism was successfully spread across many parts of the world. It even became a dominant religion in both Angola and Brazil. Furthermore, Portugal managed to establish a global maritime network that was connecting across continents, leading to increased access towards valuable resources such as gold and ivory. Now, did you think Portugal's actions were justifiable? Personally, I think that the Portuguese actions towards their colonized countries were definitely unjustifiable. In 1856, the Portuguese monarchy led towards the separation of children from their mothers, who were still considered property in Angola. The children of slaves could have remained in their mother's custody until the age of 7, but because of this, they were left to their fate. Horrible forced labor was also ongoing until the late 20th century. Until the very end of their colonization in Angola, coercive labor and tax exactions, racial discrimination, authoritarian politics, and economic exploitation were the fundamental pillars of Portuguese colonialism. As stated before, many war veterans that were interviewed described the colonization as an experience that was painful and terrible. some even describing it as the worst moments of their lives. They were also constantly dealing with lack of support, unfairness, and hypocrisy. These are just some of many reasons why Portuguese colonialism is widely considered unjustifiable. In conclusion, the Portuguese Empire was an extremely powerful empire that colonized many other countries. From their colonization, they were able to obtain many valuable resources, such as spices and gold. Although they managed to receive many valuables and create new technological inventions, they spread diseases while they were colonizing, causing an immense decline in population throughout some areas. Many things motivated them, such as the motivation to spread Catholicism and the drive to get valuables and conquer territory. Even though they were powerful, the actions were widely considered unjustifiable. This shows us how even when we seem to be thriving, we must also act with caution, integrity, and foresight. Portuguese colonialism also reminded me of a quote by Albert Memmi that states, "The colonizer is tempted to accept the role of usurper and exploit his position. Convinced of his own superiority, he ends by despising the colonized." This quote elaborates how colonization is never neutral, as it mostly leads to theft and also domination. My name is Dylan, and thank you for listening to my speech.